The elders agreed to a trial, 3 weeks. They would stay on the station and try to help Nari reconnect with her people. But Han Wol could stay too. They built a special habitat in one of the station's large rooms. It looked like a Veltari home with soft lights and warm colors. But they added human things too. A bed like humans used, pictures of Earth, books in Galactic Standard. On the second day, Elder Zixara brought Velthari children. Real children, not much older than Nari looked. They arrived with their caregivers curious and excited. Nari hid behind Han Wol when she saw them. "It's okay," he told her. "They're kids like you. They want to play. Too many," Nari whispered. "Too loud, too bright." The Velthari children stared at Nari. One of them, a small child with bright blue scales, spoke in rapid Velthari. The others laughed. Nari's scales turned dark red. "What they say?" she asked Han Wol. "What funny?" Elder Zixara looked embarrassed. "They said you smell strange, mixed. They don't mean to be cruel. They're just young. I smell strange," Nari repeated. Her voice was small. "Different, wrong." "No," Han Wol said firmly. "You smell like you. That's not wrong. That's just you." But Nari wouldn't play with the other children that day. She stayed close to Han Wol, watching them from a distance. The other children eventually got bored and left. That night, a human woman arrived. Her name was Hee-jin. She was a psychologist, someone who helped people with their feelings and fears. "I'm here to help everyone," she told Han Wol. "Not just Nari, you too. This is hard for all of you." Hee-jin was warm and gentle. She spent time with Nari, but she didn't push. She just talked. Asked questions, listened. "Tell me about the station," Hee-jin said. "When you were alone." Nari didn't want to talk about it at first. But slowly, piece by piece, the story came out. The darkness, the cold, the hunger, the fear. Finding food in old storage rooms, sleeping in the ventilation shafts where it was warm, talking to herself because there was no one else. "I thought I was the last one," Nari said. "Last one in the whole universe. Just me, forever." Han Wol had to look away. His eyes were burning. Hee-jin also spent time with the elders. She explained trauma, how Nari's brain had changed to survive, how trust was hard for her, how being with other Velthari might actually be harder than being with humans because it reminded her of what she had lost. "She needs time," Hee-jin said, "and patience. And most of all, she needs to know that no one will abandon her again." Elder Thekamora took those words seriously. The next day, she came to Nari alone. No attendants. No other elders. Just her. "May I sit with you?" she asked. Nari looked at Han Wol. He nodded. "It's okay. I'm right here." Elder Thekamora sat down slowly. She was old and her movements were stiff. She didn't try to touch Nari, she just sat. "I want to tell you a story," the elder said, "about when I was young. About when I first came to this station." She talked about her research. About wanting to bring species together. About the children in the program. About how excited everyone was. "You were so small," she said. "So bright. Your scales changed colors faster than any child I had ever seen. You were happy." "I don't remember happy," Nari said. "I know," Elder Thekamora said. "I took that from you. We all did. And I am sorry. More sorry than words can say." Nari looked at the old elder, really looked at her. "You remember me?" "Yes, I remember you singing. You loved music." Something flickered in Nari's eyes. "A memory? A feeling?" "Singing," she repeated. I know singing. In the dark, I sang. To feel less alone." Elder Thekamora began to sing. It was a Velthari lullaby, soft and strange. The sounds were clicks and whistles and hums all woven together. Nari's scales started to shimmer. She made a small sound, then another. She was humming along. She knew this song. When the song ended, Nari was crying, but her scales were gold. "Bright, pure gold, I remember," she whispered. "Little bit. I remember." That was the breakthrough. After that, Nari started to open up, slowly, carefully. But she opened up. Elder Zixara taught her Velthari games. At first, Nari just watched. Then she tried. She was clumsy and made mistakes, but the other children were more patient now. One child, a gentle soul named Siltari, became her friend. Siltari didn't laugh when Nari got the scent greetings wrong. She just showed her again, and again, until Nari started to remember. But every night, Nari still came to Han Wol. She would curl up near him when she slept. She needed to know he was there. "Is this okay?" Hee-jin asked him one evening. "You're becoming very important to her." What happens when we have to leave? Hanwol had thought about this. Every day. Every night. I don't know, he admitted. But I can't abandon her either. I made a promise. And if keeping that promise means staying with her? For months, years. He looked at Nari, who was playing a clapping game with Siltari. She was laughing. Actually laughing. Then that's what I do, he said. On the last day of the trial, all the elders met with Hanwol and Heejin. Nari was playing with Siltari in the next room. She has made remarkable progress, Elder Zixara said. She is remembering her language. Her culture. Her people. But she still needs Hanwol, Elder Thekamora added. Every night. Every time she is scared. She runs to him first. That's attachment, Heejin explained. He's her safe person. Her anchor. Taking that away now would undo all the progress she's made. Attendant Rixavan, who had been quiet for most of the trial, spoke up. So what do you suggest? That a human raise a Velthari child? That is unprecedented. No, Heejin said. I suggest both. Velthari raise her. Teach her. Help her grow. But Hanwol stays in her life. Visits, maintains the bond. Until she's old enough to choose for herself. Choose what? Rixvan asked. Where she wants to be. Who she wants to be. Nari deserves the chance to know both worlds. To belong to both. The elders looked at each other. This was new territory. Dangerous territory. If they got it wrong, it could damage relations between species, but if they got it right, Elder Thekmora stood. We will present this to the council, but I will recommend we try, for Nari, and for all the children who might come after her. She looked at Hanwol. Are you willing? This is not a small commitment. This is years of your life. Hanwol didn't hesitate. Yes, why? Rixvan asked. She's not your species. Not your responsibility. Why give up so much? Hanwol smiled. It was a sad smile, but real. Because she told me I smell like home. And maybe she smells like home to me too. In the next room, Nari laughed at something Siltari said. It was the sound of a child who was starting to heal. Starting to hope. And that was worth everything. Part 3, the Velthari ship arrived exactly on time. It was beautiful and terrifying at once. The hull shimmered like Nari's scales, changing colors as it moved. It was 10 times bigger than their small survey vessel. Hanwol stood in the station's central atrium with Nari. The room had huge windows showing the stars outside. Nari held his hand so tightly it almost hurt. Her scales kept changing colors. Red, gray, purple. She was scared. It's going to be okay, he told her. I'm right here. Too big, Nari whispered. Ship too big? Too many, she wasn't wrong. Captain Ji-Wan had told them the delegation included 3 elders, 5 attendants, and a medical team. All coming to see one small child. Deun and Byung-ho stood nearby. Both looked nervous. This wasn't a normal first contact. This was political, complicated. One wrong word could cause an incident between species. The airlock opened with a hiss. The Velthari entered. They were tall, much taller than humans. Their scales were brighter and more complex than Nari's, creating patterns that seemed to move. They wore elegant robes that flowed as they walked. Their eyes were the same large, luminous type as Nari's, but older, wiser. The leader stepped forward. She was ancient, Hanwol could tell. Her scales had faded to silver and white. But she moved with grace and power. I am Elder Thekmora, she said. Her voice was deep and musical. We have come for the child, not to meet the child, not to see the child. To take the child. Hanwol's jaw tightened. Her name is Nari, he said. Elder Thekmora's eyes moved to Nari. For a moment, something flickered across her face. Surprise? Sadness? It was gone too quickly to tell. Nari, the elder repeated. Yes, she was part of the communication study. I remember her file. Another Velthari stepped forward, younger but still imposing. I am Elder Zixara. I specialize in child development. We are grateful you found her, but she must come with us now. She needs proper care. Velthari care. She needs familiar care, Hanwol said. She's been alone for 30 years. She's traumatized. Taking her away from the only person she trusts would be cruel. A younger Velthari, his scales bright green and gold, spoke up. The only person she trusts is human? That is unnatural. You must have done something to her. Attendant Rixvan, Elder Thekmora said sharply. Control yourself, but the damage was done. Nari made a small sound of distress. Her scales turned almost black. She tried to hide behind Han Wol. "May we approach?" Elder Zixara asked, her voice gentler. Han Wol looked down at Nari. "Do you want to meet them?" Nari shook her head, but she was peeking around his leg, looking at the Velthari with frightened curiosity. "Maybe one at a time," Han Wol suggested. "And slowly." Elder Zixara nodded. She moved forward carefully, her steps slow and measured. She got down on her knees, making herself smaller, less threatening. "Hello, little one," she said in Velthari. The language was all clicks and soft whistles. "Do you remember our words?" Nari didn't answer. Her scales flickered. Elder Zixara tried again, this time in Galactic Standard. "My name is Zixara. I want to help you." "Don't need help," Nari said quietly. "Have Han Wol." The words hit the elders like a physical blow. Han Wol could see it on their faces. This child of their species preferred a human. It went against everything they understood. "Nari," Elder Thekmora said, her voice heavy with emotion. "We are your people. Your family. We share your blood, your culture, your very essence." "Don't know you," Nari said. She pressed closer to Han Wol. "Don't remember family. Don't remember culture." "Then we will teach you," Elder Zixara said. "We will help you remember." "No." Nari's voice was small but firm. "Stay with Han Wol." Attendant Rixvan made a disgusted sound. "This is wrong. She has been corrupted by human contact. We should take her now, by force if necessary." Byung-ho's hand moved to his weapon. Dayun stepped forward, ready to intervene. The tension in the room became thick enough to touch. "No one is taking anyone by force," Han Wol said. His voice was calm but hard as steel. "Nari is a person, not property. She has a right to feel safe." "She is a child," Elder Thekmora said. "Children do not always know what is best for them." "Maybe not," Han Wol agreed. "But they know what makes them feel safe. And right now, for whatever reason, I make Nari feel safe. Taking that away from her would be cruel." He took a breath and played his card. "You want to know why she trusts me?" "Because of your own research. The communication study. You exposed her to human scent patterns during her development. You programmed her to recognize humans as safe." The elders went very still. "We found the files," Daon added. "The full records of the study. You taught her brain to trust humans before she could even talk." Elder Thekmora's scales turned pale. That was research. Scientific study. It was never meant to matter, Han Wol finished. Because she was supposed to grow up with Velthari parents who would teach her properly. But that didn't happen. She grew up alone, and now the only thing she remembers is what you taught her. That humans smell like home. Elder Zixara looked at Nari with new understanding and sadness. "We did this to her. We made her this way. You tried to create bridges between species," Han Wol said. "You succeeded. Just not the way you planned." He knelt down and looked at Nari. "Can you tell the elders?" "About me? About how I smell?" Nari looked at the Velthari. Her scales flickered between colors, showing her fear, but she spoke. "He smells like home," she said. Her voice was quiet but clear. "Like safe. Like warm. Like—" She paused, struggling for words she didn't quite have. "Like love," she finally said. The elders were stunned into silence. Even Attendant Rixvan had nothing to say. Elder Thekmora slowly sank to her knees. Her ancient eyes were wet with tears. "I was there," she said quietly. "When we evacuated, I was one of the researchers. I thought we saved everyone. I thought all the children were safe." She looked at Nari. "I failed you. We all failed you, and now you don't even know us." Nari tilted her head, studying the elder. Something seemed to stir in her eyes. A fragment of memory, perhaps. "Old one," Nari said in broken Velthari. "Sad, why sad?" "Because I left you alone," Elder Thekmora said. "And you suffered." Nari thought about this. Then she did something that surprised everyone. She took a small step away from Han Wol. Just one step. Toward the elder. "Not alone now," Nari said. "Have Han Wol and maybe have you?" It was a question. A small, uncertain question from a child who had been alone for too long. Elder Thekmora's tears fell freely now. "Yes," she whispered. "You have me. You have all of us. But I keep Han Wol too," Nari said firmly. "He stays." Elder Zixara and Elder Thekmora looked at each other. A long, silent conversation seemed to pass between them. Finally, Elder Thekmora nodded. "We will discuss this. But I promise you, little one, We will not take you from someone who makes you feel safe. Not again. Nari's scales turned gold. For the first time since the Velthari arrived, she looked almost happy. Almost hopeful. The child's name was Nari. At least that's what the medical record said. Dait-Yun found the files 2 days after they discovered her hiding in the station. Look at this, Dait-Yun said, pointing at her screen. She had finally gotten the main computer working. Nari, age 7, subject in the cross-species communication study. That was 30 years ago, so she'd be 37 now, Hanwol said. He looked at Nari, who was curled up in a corner of the medical bay watching them with those big eyes. She looked like a child. She acted like a child. But Velthari aged differently than humans. She might still be young in their terms. Nari hadn't left his side since they found her. When Byung-ho tried to carry her to the ship, she screamed and clawed at him until Hanwol came. Now she followed him everywhere. If he left the room, she would cry. If he came back, her scales would turn bright gold and she would rush to him. It was strange. It was also breaking his heart. What's this study about? Byung-ho asked, reading over Daeun's shoulder. Daeun scrolled through the files. Scent recognition. The Velthari communicate partly through smell. It's how they identify family, friends, danger. The scientists here were trying to teach Velthari children to recognize other species the same way. They used human DNA samples, she continued, exposed the children to different scents during their development. The goal was to create universal translators, basically. Kids who could work with any species. Hanwol felt cold. So when Nari smelled me, her brain recognized you as safe, as family, as home. Daeun looked uncomfortable. They basically programmed her to trust humans. That's not right, Byung-ho said, his voice hard. That's manipulation. Hanwol couldn't argue. But he looked at Nari again. She was watching him, making sure he was still there. When their eyes met, she smiled. It was a small, uncertain smile, but it was real. Was it just programming, or was there something more? There's more, Daeun said quietly. About the evacuation, she pulled up another file. Security logs, medical reports. A disease broke out on the station, something that affected Velthari but not other species. It spread fast. They had to evacuate in hours. The children were in quarantine pods, she continued. Safety measure. When the alarm went off, the pods should have opened automatically, but Nari's pod malfunctioned. The door stayed locked. Hanwol closed his eyes. They left her. They didn't know. The system said all pods were empty. By the time anyone could check, the station was sealed. Too dangerous to return, 30 years. Nari had been alone for 30 years. A child trapped in a dead station, surviving on old supplies, living in the walls. Forgetting her language. Forgetting everything except fear and hunger. We need to report this, Byung-ho said. The Velthari government needs to know. Report what? Captain Ji-won's voice came through the speaker. She was still on the main ship orbiting nearby. That we found a survivor? Yes, Byung-ho said. They have a right to know. She's one of their people. And then what? Hanwol asked. His voice was sharper than he meant it to be. They take her away? Put her in some facility? Study her? They're her people, Hanwol. Her species. She belongs with them. Does she? Hanwol looked at Nari again. Look at her. She doesn't even remember being Velthari. She's terrified of everyone except me. If we hand her over to strangers, we don't have a choice, Captain Ji-won said. Galactic law is clear. We must report any discovered sentient beings to the proper authorities. In this sector, that's the Velthari Reclamation Fleet. Hanwol wanted to argue more. He wanted to grab Nari and run. But where would they go? And was he thinking about what was best for her? Or what he wanted? He walked over to Nari and sat down beside her. She immediately moved closer, pressing against his side. Her scales were soft and warm. Nari, he said gently, do you remember your people? The Velthari. She tilted her head, thinking hard. Velthari, she repeated slowly. Big, tall, scales like me. Yes, they're your family. Your kind. Nari's scales flickered between colors. Blue, purple, gray. Don't remember family. Only remember alone, dark, scared. I know, Hanwol said. But that's over now. You're not alone anymore. Not alone, Nari agreed. She looked up at him with those huge eyes. Have you? You smell like home. There it was again. That phrase. Hanwol didn't know what to say. We're going to meet some Velthari, he said carefully. They're going to want to help you. Take care of you. Nari's scales turned dark red. No, no others. They smell wrong. They smell danger. Nari, they're not dangerous. They're your people. You're my people. She grabbed his arm with both hands. Her grip was surprisingly strong. You smell right. You smell safe. You're home. Dayun looked away. Byung-ho cleared his throat. Even Captain Ji-won was silent on the radio. Han-wol carefully put his arms around Nari. I'm not leaving you, he promised. Even when the Velthari come. I'll stay with you. Okay, promise. I promise. Nari's scales slowly turned back to gold. She relaxed against him. Okay, she whispered. Okay. That night Han-wol couldn't sleep. He sat in the medical bay watching Nari. She was finally resting on one of the beds. She had refused to sleep unless he was in the room. Dayun brought him coffee. You okay? No, he said honestly. I don't know what I'm doing. This isn't my specialty. I study cultures, not this. You're doing fine, Doan said. She trusts you. That's what matters. She trusts me because scientists programmed her to trust humans. It's not real, isn't it? Dayun sat down beside him. I read those files too. The scent recognition was supposed to create familiarity, not attachment, not love. Nari doesn't just recognize you as safe. She's bonded with you. That's because I'm the first person who's been kind to her in 30 years. Exactly, Daun said. You were kind. You chose to be gentle. You chose to help. That's not programming. That's real. Han-wol looked at Nari's sleeping face. She looked peaceful, safe. For the first time in probably decades. The Velthari will be here in 3 days, Captain Ji-won had said. Maybe you should prepare her. 3 days. It wasn't enough time. But then again, no amount of time would be enough, Daun, he said quietly. If this goes wrong, if they try to take her and she's scared, I need you to back me up. Back you up how? I don't know yet. But I promised her I wouldn't leave. And I keep my promises, Daun smiled. You're going to fight the entire Velthari government for a kid you just met? Han-wol looked at Nari again. Her scales glowed softly in the dim light. If I have to, he said. Yes. Daun patted his shoulder. Then I guess we're going to need a really good plan. The station floated dead in space. Han-wol pressed his face against the window of the survey ship and stared at the massive structure. It looked like a giant metal flower with bent petals. Some lights still blinked on and off, but most of it was dark. Very dark, creepy, Daun said from the pilot's seat. She was young, maybe 25, with short black hair and bright eyes that saw everything. Nobody's been here for 30 years. Why do we have to check it before they blow it up? Because that's our job, Byung-ho said. He stood near the door, checking his weapon for the 3rd time. He was older, with gray at his temples and worry lines on his face. Could be dangerous materials inside. Could be valuable data. Could be bodies. Han-wol didn't like that last part. He was a scientist, not a soldier. He studied aliens and how they lived, not how they died. But Byung-ho was right. The Velthari had abandoned this place in a hurry. Nobody knew why. The docking was smooth. Dayun was good at her job. When the airlock opened, stale air rushed out. It smelled old and metallic. Han-wol pulled on his helmet and followed Byung-ho inside. The station was a maze. Corridors twisted and turned. Most doors were sealed shut. Emergency lights flickered red and yellow, casting strange shadows on the walls. Han-wol's boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Everything was covered in dust. I'm going to find the power core, Daun said through the radio. Maybe I can get the main lights working. Be careful, Byung-ho warned. Stay on the radio. Han-wol headed toward the biolabs. That's where the Velthari did their research. That's where he might find useful information. The door to the lab was stuck, but he managed to force it open with a crowbar. Inside, the lab was a mess. Tables were overturned. Glass containers had shattered on the floor. Papers were scattered everywhere. But in the corner, Han-wol found something interesting. A datapad still glowing faintly. The battery was almost dead, but it worked. He scrolled through the files. Most were boring reports about experiments. But then he found photos. Velthari children. They were small creatures with shimmering scales that changed colors in the light. Their eyes were huge and bright. In the photos, they were playing, learning, being children. Han-wol felt something heavy in his chest. These children had been here. Where were they now? Safe with their families? Or lost in the evacuation? He found a small room that looked like a nursery. Tiny beds lined the walls. Toys were scattered on the floor. He sat down on one of the beds and looked at the photos again. That's when he heard it. A small sound, like breathing, like someone trying very hard to be quiet. Hanwol froze. His heart started beating faster. He slowly turned his head and looked around the room. Nothing, just shadows and dust. Then he saw it. A ventilation grate near the ceiling. Two large eyes stared at him through the metal bars. They glowed softly in the darkness, yellow-green like a cat's eyes at night. "Hello?" Hanwol said softly. His voice sounded too loud in the quiet room. The eyes blinked. Then they disappeared. Hanwol stood up slowly. His hands were shaking. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. "I'm here to help." Silence. But he could hear breathing again. Faster now. Scared, he took off his helmet. The air was safe enough to breathe. He wanted whoever was hiding to see his face. "My name is Hanwol. I'm human. Do you understand me?" A small voice came from the vent. It spoke in broken words, mixing languages. "Human? What is human?" "I'm human," Hanwol said, pointing to himself. "I come from a planet called Earth. Are you Velthari?" More silence. Then the voice again, so quiet he almost missed it. "Velthari, yes, I think." "I don't remember." Hanwol's chest tightened. "Don't remember?" How long had this child been alone? "Are you hungry?" he asked. He reached into his pack and pulled out a ration bar. It wasn't much, but it was food. He held it up so the eyes in the vent could see it. The eyes came closer to the grate. Hanwol could see more now. A small face, scales that shimmered blue and purple. The child was thin. Too thin. "You can have it," Hanwol said. "I'll put it down right here and step back, okay?" He placed the ration bar on the floor and walked backward to the door. He sat down and waited. Minutes passed. 5, 10. Hanwol stayed very still. Finally, the grate moved. A small figure dropped down from the ceiling with surprising grace. The child was tiny, maybe the size of a 7-year-old human. Scales covered every inch of skin, changing colors as the child moved. The clothes were torn and dirty. The child approached the ration bar like a wild animal ready to run at any second. Small hands grabbed it and tore the wrapper open. The child ate quickly, desperately. Hanwol's heart broke. This child had been starving, alone, for who knows how long. When the food was gone, the child looked at him, really looked at him. Those large eyes studied his face, his clothes, everything about him. Then the child did something strange. The small nose twitched. The child was smelling the air. Smelling him. The child's eyes went wide. The scales flickered from purple to bright gold. The small mouth opened in surprise. "You," the child whispered. "You smell like, the child took a step closer. Then another. The eyes filled with tears. "You smell like home." Before Hanwol could react, the child rushed forward. Small arms wrapped around him. The child's face pressed against his chest. The small body was shaking. "Home," the child said again, voice muffled. "Safe. Home." Hanwol carefully put his arms around the child. The scales were smooth and warm under his hands. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe now. I promise." "Hanwol," Byung-ho's voice crackled over the radio. "What's your status? Are you okay?" Hanwol reached for his radio with one hand, keeping the other arm around the child. "Byung-ho, I need you to come to the nursery, slowly, no weapons. We have a situation." "What kind of situation?" Hanwol looked down at the child clinging to him. "We found a survivor." The radio went silent. "Then a survivor? After 30 years?" "Yes, a child." "Velthari. And Byung-ho? Move slowly. Don't scare them." When Byung-ho arrived, he stopped in the doorway. His eyes went wide. The child looked up at the sound of his footsteps and hissed a low warning sound. The scales turned dark red. "It's okay," Hanwol said quickly. "He's with me. He's safe." Byung-ho raised his hands slowly, showing they were empty. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. The child didn't believe him. But the child believed Hanwol. That was clear. The small body pressed closer against him, seeking protection. "What do we do?" Byung-ho asked quietly. Hanwol looked down at the frightened child in his arms. The child who somehow thought he smelled like home. The child who had survived alone for so long. "We help," he said. "That's what we do." The Velthari homeworld was beautiful. The city was built inside giant crystal caves that glowed with their own light. Blues and purples and greens danced on the walls. Water flowed in streams through the streets, singing as it moved. Han Wul stood in the council chamber with Nari holding his hand. The room was huge, with hundreds of Velthari watching them. Elders sat in a circle around them, their scales shimmering in the light. This was it. The final decision. Would they allow Han Wul to stay in Nari's life? Or would they say no and take her away? Nari's scales kept changing colors. She was nervous. So was Han Wul, though he tried not to show it. A very old Velthari rose from the center seat. His scales were almost white with age, but his eyes were sharp and bright. "I am High Elder Vormathus," he said. His voice filled the whole chamber. "We have heard the reports from the station. We have read the files. We have listened to Elder Thekmora's recommendations." He looked down at Nari. "We have also heard from you, little one. You told us what you want." Nari squeezed Han Wul's hand tighter. "But wanting something does not mean it is wise," Vormathus continued. "The council is divided. Some believe you should be raised by Velthari alone, that this human connection is unnatural, dangerous to your development." Han Wul felt his heart sink. "Others," Vormathus said, "believe we have no right to separate you from the one who saved you, the one you trust." A human stepped forward from the crowd. Han Wul recognized him from his credentials. Representative Tai Yang, a diplomat from Earth. "May I speak?" Tai Yang asked. Vormathus nodded. "The council recognizes Earth's representative." Tai Yang bowed respectfully. Then he spoke. "Honored elders, I come not to argue about who has more right to this child. I come to suggest a different path entirely." "What path?" an elder asked. "On Earth we have a concept called chosen family, people who are not related by blood but are family by choice, by love, by commitment." He gestured to Han Wul and Nari. "These two have formed a bond, not because of biology, not because of programming, because in the darkest moment of this child's life, this human showed her kindness." "Kindness is not family," another elder said. "Isn't it?" Tai Yang asked. "What is family but people who care for us, who protect us, who choose to stay even when it's hard?" He turned to address all the elders. "I propose that Han Wul be recognized as Nari's guardian, not her only guardian, her human guardian. He would have legal rights to visit her, to be part of her life, to help raise her alongside Velthari caregivers." The chamber erupted in discussion. Velthari clicking and whistling to each other. Some seemed interested, others looked angry. "This is unprecedented," one elder said. "No human has ever been guardian to a Velthari child." "Then let this be the first," Elder Thekmora said, standing. "Let us show the galaxy that we care more about this child's well-being than our pride." "But what happens as she grows?" another elder asked. "What if she wants to stay with the human? What if she rejects us entirely?" "Then that is her choice," Tai Yang said. "When she is old enough, she decides. Until then, both worlds, both families." High Elder Vormathus raised his hand. The chamber fell silent. "We will hear from the child herself," he said. "Nari, step forward." Nari's scales went pale with fear. She looked up at Han Wul. "You can do this," he whispered. "Tell them what you feel." Nari took a shaky breath. She walked forward, so small in that huge chamber. She stood before the High Elder and looked up at him. I am scared," she said in Velthari. Her words were slow but clear. "Scared you take Han Wul away. Scared I lose him. Why does this human matter so much to you?" Vormathus asked gently. "Because when I was alone," Nari said. "When I thought I would die alone, he came. He gave me food. He gave me kind words. He gave me hope." Her scales started to shimmer with emotion. "He smells like home. But now I know something else." "What do you know?" the elder asked. Nari turned to look at the gathered Velthari, at Elder Thekmora, who had sung to her, at Elder Zixara, who had taught her games, at all the others who had tried to help. You smell like home too, she said. Different home, but still home. I don't want to choose. I want both. Her voice grew stronger. Han Wool taught me to be brave again. You teach me to be Velthari again. I need both. I want both. She looked back at Vormatis. Please, don't make me lose anyone else. I already lost too much. The High Elder's expression softened. He looked at Nari for a long moment. Then he looked at Han Wool, then at all the gathered elders. The child speaks wisdom beyond her years, he said. Perhaps because suffering taught her what truly matters. He stood, and his voice rang through the chamber. I propose a new law, the law of dual guardianship. When circumstances require it, when it serves the best interest of the child, guardianship may be shared across species. Han Wool will be recognized as Nari's human guardian. He will have rights to visit her, to communicate with her, to be part of her upbringing, but Nari will live with Velthari caregivers and learn our ways. When she reaches maturity, she will choose her own path. Until then, she will know both worlds, both families. He looked around at the other elders. All in favor? There was a long pause. Then Elder Thekmora stood. I vote yes. Elder Zixara stood. Yes. One by one, elders stood. Some quickly, some slowly. But they stood. Finally, only a few remained seated. Attendant Rixven was one of them, but he was outnumbered. The council has spoken, Vormatis said. The law of dual guardianship is approved. Han Wool, do you accept this responsibility? Han Wool's voice was thick with emotion. I do. Then it is done. Vormathas smiled. It was the first time Han Wool had seen a Velthari smile, and it transformed the old elder's face. Nari ran to Han Wool. He picked her up and she wrapped her arms around his neck. You're not going away, she asked. Never, he promised. I'll visit, I'll call. I'll always be here when you need me. Promise, I promise. Elder Thekmora approached them. And we promise too, little one. We will never leave you alone again. You have 2 families now, 2 homes. Nari looked between Han Wool and the elder. Her scales were pure, bright gold. 2 homes, she repeated. Then she smiled. I like that. That night there was a celebration. Velthari and humans together eating and talking and laughing. Nari played with Siltari and the other children. She was still shy, still learning, but she was happy. Representative Tai Yang found Han Wool watching from the side. You did a good thing, he said. I just did what felt right, Han Wool said. That's what makes it good. Taeyang smiled. You know this law you helped create? It's going to change things, for lots of children, across lots of species. Han Wool hadn't thought about that. He'd just been focused on Nari. But Taeyang was right. They had created something new, something important. All because one little girl told you that you smelled like home, Taeyang said. Han Wool watched Nari laugh as Siltari tickled her. Yeah, he said softly. All because of that. Later, when the celebration was ending, Nari came to say goodnight. She had her own room now, in the Velthari Education Center. It was comfortable and safe, but she still needed to see Han Wool before she slept. Will you visit soon? She asked. As soon as I can, he promised. And you can call me any time, day or night. Okay. She hugged him tight. Thank you for finding me. Thank you for being brave enough to trust me, he said. Nari pulled back and looked at him. Her eyes were bright and clear. You still smell like home, she said. Always will. So do you, Han Wool said. And he meant it. This strange, wonderful child had become his home too. And that was the greatest gift he'd ever received.